It begins now. It begins in here. It begins with these people on this day, in this place. Today, your Albion education begins. For some of you, not many, it may also end today. But for others of you, we will plant a seed inside you today that will grow not just through the next year and the next year and the next year, but through decades and decades. It will follow you and grow throughout your entire life. Today is the day that education begins. My name is Jess Roberts. I am a 19th century Americanist, which means that I spend a lot of time thinking about people who are dead, right? And people who wrote words a long time ago. But I find that when I look for the articulation of the most important principles of education that this institution espouses, I find it back there in the 19th century. This is my good friend Ralph Waldo Emerson. I hope some of you have heard of him, right? Ralph Waldo Emerson, in the earlier part of the 19th century, wrote an address called The American Scholar. And he says in The American Scholar, colleges have their indispensable office to teach the elements, but they can only highly serve us when they aim not to drill, but to create. When they gather from far every ray of various genius to their hospitable halls, and by the concentrated fires, set the hearts of their youth on flame. Colleges have their indispensable office to teach the elements, but they can only serve us highly if they aim not to drill, but to create. We will serve you highly by aiming not to drill, but to create. We will make you makers. Will we teach you the elements? We will. It is our indispensable office. But we will serve not only you in this room, not only you in this town, not only you in this state, in this country, but in this world, by making you creators. That is the thing that an Albion education will enable you to do, to make things that are new in the world, to make ideas, to make words, to make relationships, to make change in a world that is constantly changing. My goals here today are to talk to you about what the liberal arts are, about how they work, and about why they matter. My goal here today is to give you a sense of how we do things here and why it's so important. My goal here today is also to create for you an experience that feels a little bit like an Albion education. Now I face an interesting challenge because this is the only place where I lecture. I do not hand knowledge to my students in my classes. I make it with them. I ask them questions. They ask me questions. And we find answers together. If we were in class, I would know all your names. From the first day to the last. All of them. And that knowing you from the very beginning is the thing that is going to enable me and so many people here to help you figure out not only what your passions are, but how to manifest them in the world. How to figure out how your passions and skills match up with the needs of the world. That's what we do here. So what are the liberal arts? Now, I don't know about you, but when I was 16, 17, even 18 years old, I had no idea what the liberal arts were. I thought, well, they have something vaguely to do with well-roundedness, and liberal arts places seem to have a lot of bricks, right? Those are my two associations with the liberal arts, right? So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the liberal arts are. The liberal arts is a way of understanding knowledge. The way of understanding knowledge that we have here is that knowledge is not primarily or exclusively valuable because it will make you a better professional. Will it make you a better professional? Yes. I'll get to that later, okay? But it is not important primarily or exclusively because that is the case. The liberal arts also understands that those people who are best able to look at the world and see it for what it is are those people who can think from a number of different angles. We're going to teach you how to think like a natural scientist, how to think like a humanist, how to think like a social scientist, how to think like an artist, so that whenever you approach problems in the world, you have all of those lenses to use. by those limitations. If you have multiple lenses to pull out, to look at any problem, the possibilities of your solving that problem grow and grow and grow. Okay? Knowledge is not a thing that is only important because it will make you better professionals. It will make you a better professional, right? And every way of approaching a problem comes with attendant possibilities and limitations. So we're going to give you multiple ways, right? So what are the benefits of the liberal arts? Why do they matter? Why are they not only a relevant form of education, but the most relevant form of education in our world? Number one, they will benefit you civically. We are citizens of a democracy. And what Henry David Thoreau would tell us, right, another dead white guy, is that he would tell us that we act civically not only when we vote, but when we vote with our whole person. You will grow to be leaders in your communities. You will sit on city councils, on school boards. You will cast votes in a number of different settings. You will be citizens insofar as you choose to do one thing with your life and not another. Do you have the lenses to be able to understand the problems that we face in this place locally and in this place globally, right? But I also think that the liberal arts benefit us personally. Now, I'm an idealist, but I'm also a pragmatist. And the idealist in me says, one of the most powerful benefits of the liberal arts is that by forcing you to take a range of different classes in a range of different disciplines, you might just find your joy. You might just find the thing that enables you to become the fullest version of yourself. And you think, oh, Jess, who does that happen to? It happened to me. When I went to college, back in the dark ages, right, I showed up, and I was going to be a lawyer. And I was going to make partner by the time I was 35, even though I had no idea what that meant. Right? LA Law was a show in the 1980s. Everyone seemed to be a partner or to want to be a partner. So I was going to be a partner. Then I was going to run for the House of Representatives and the Senate. And then I was going to somehow end up in the White House. And then I did a funny thing. I took a class called 19th Century American Poetry. And I read Walt Whitman. And he writes, I celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume you shall assume for every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. And I thought, I have been waiting my entire life to read this poem, and I didn't know it until right now. I found my joy in a class I had to take. In a class that was just going to give me another lens. And then there it was, and everything shifted. Now, what does the pragmatist say? The pragmatist in me says, joy matters. To get up in the morning and to give your life energy to a thing that actually makes you feel more alive in the act of giving. That, pragmatically, is a benefit. Our world benefits from that alignment of passion and the work we do in the world. So you're thinking, okay. It's really nice that there are civic benefits. It's really nice that there are personal benefits. But let's talk about the professions, right? Let's talk about the jobs that are out there. Everybody tells me we need to be more specialized. We are living in such a specialized world right now. And I think to myself, well, if we train you to do one thing, we get you ready for one job, one kind of job. And that job vanishes in the next 10 years, as we have watched jobs vanish in the last 10 years. We have not served you. Not highly or lowly have we served you. You need to be able to go out there with a set of skills that are transferable. You need to be able to adapt. Because even if you say to me, oh, Jess, there are always going to be doctors. There are always going to be lawyers. There are always going to be teachers. I would say to you, yes. For the foreseeable future, I imagine that that's true. I sure hope that that's true, right? And I would say to you, those people who are the makers, who are the changers, who make things different, who impact our lives, are the people who are most adaptable, who are the people who can be intellectually creative, who can take intellectual risks. And you are best able to do that if you have a number of different ways of looking at any one problem. Professionally speaking, it matters that you can adapt. And you say, you know what, Jess? I'm pretty savvy. I'm already here. And I say, you are a biased source. And I say, good point. I am a biased source. I am a professor at a liberal arts college. Isn't it a fantasy for you that I have that actually matters out there to be adaptable? So then I think, well, what do the employers say? Now, I'm going to point to the bottom. This is a little like analysis going to happen right now. What is my source? My source is a study called Raising the Bar, Employers' Views on College Learning in the Wake of the Economic Downturn. In the wake of. Right? This is not like, oh, when there was lots of money and things were flush, these are things we really liked. This is like, things are tough. These are, I love this is a phrase I've learned recently, mission critical skills. Mission critical. So what are these they are Michigan critical skills and mission critical skills. The employers say that one of the most important skills you can have is the ability to communicate effectively, orally, and in writing. You have to be able to write. And I'm going to tell you a secret right now. All of you students in here, you are high school writers. Why? Because you're in high school. But if when you graduate from college, you are a high school writer, that's a problem. We will teach you to communicate effectively, orally, and in writing. We will teach you how to make your ideas available, not only to the audience of your teacher, but to multiple audiences with different, sometimes conflicting desires. Being able to communicate effectively, orally, and in writing is one of the most important skills that you can have. And you think, oh, but you're an English teacher. That's right. But a partner at one of the big 3 accounting firms told a friend and a colleague of mine that the one thing that distinguished the people who rose up through the ranks of the accounting firms was the ability to write. These are accountants. And the very fact that the Albion College Fed Challenge team placed second in the national competition, I would say, has everything to do with the fact that they are accountants who come out of a liberal arts background who can write. Why? Because not only did they have to analyze a financial situation, not only did they have to formulate suggestions and policy recommendations, they had to persuade a panel. We will teach you to write, to communicate effectively, orally, and in writing. Critical thinking and analytical reasoning skills. This is our bread and butter. This is what we do. We will teach you how to think critically about just about everything. Because you take a class in just about everything? No. Because we teach you the method of thought. We teach you the method of analysis. And then we say, do it over here. And now, do it over here. And now, do it here and here at the same time. And we create situations in which you apply those skills. When Kristen Spoolstra, a recent graduate of Albion College, went to Cambodia with the Peace Corps, she didn't know which problems she was going to have to analyze and think critically about, but she knew how to think and how to analyze. And so when she got there, and there are moving targets that she needs to think about, she draws on her experiences here. She was brought over there to teach English. Oh, but by the way, we would like you to write some grants about water sanitation. Oh, but by the way, how about starting a girls' basketball team? Oh, but by the way, that didn't work. Oh, but by the way, how about something else? And Kristen has been doing that for 4 years. You want me to analyze and solve problems? No problem. I know how to do that thing because we did it here over and over of different contexts. Number 3, the ability to think, to analyze, and solve complex problems. Again, our students practice this skill not only in the bio lab, not only in their philosophy class, but in the bio lab and their philosophy class, the same student, so that they practice the application of those skills over and over and over again. So you say to me, what is it exactly that you're going to teach us to do here? We're going to teach you to ask questions. We're going to teach you to find answers. And we're going to teach you to make things. You're going to look at those problems. You're going to see them clearly. You're going to draw on the number of different lenses that you have to comprehend what is at stake, to comprehend what the various components are of that problem. And then, because we've taught you how to write, you're going to communicate all of your findings and your new, revolutionary, amazing ideas in ways that persuade the people around you. We're going to teach you how to ask questions. We're going to teach you how to find answers. We're going to teach you how to make. We are going to make you uncomfortable. You think, yeah, great, that's great, Jess. A good line, right? How is it a good thing for me to tell you that we're going to make you uncomfortable? Because we are going to make you uncomfortable over and over again so that you get comfortable with discomfort. Because you know what happens if you show up at your job on the first day, or the 7th, or the 14th, or the 367th, and you feel uncomfortable by being asked to do something, and there's fear in your eyes? Is your boss going to think like, whoa, that's great? No, she's going to think, ha! People don't think well when they're afraid, right? But you people will have gained educations that make you comfortable with discomfort. Oh, there's a problem, I can solve it, right? I know how. I have a strategy. I have a method. I am a liberal arts student. I went to Albion College. That's why I can do this. So you say to me, okay, this sounds pretty good. How exactly do you go about doing all this? We go about doing it by way of our curriculum. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking curriculum to you today. I'm going to give you a general sense of our curriculum. I'm going to give you a general sense of its logic and why it matters, right? Our curriculum requires that you have a first-year seminar, requires that you satisfy general education requirements. It requires that you have at least one major. It offers you the opportunity to have more than one major. It offers you the opportunity to have minors. It offers you the opportunity to have concentrations, which are interdisciplinary minors. It offers you the opportunity to partake in what are called institutes and centers. Here's the thing I want to tell you about our curriculum. Our curriculum identifies skills that we believe are relevant and important, and it gets you to apply them in a number of different settings. Our first year seminars, maximum 15 students. Why does that matter? Because we teach you how to talk to one another. Because you know what? It's hard to talk, and it's hard to listen. It's hard to disagree. It's hard to identify assumptions. It's hard to elaborate arguments. It is hard to become a college writer. The kind of college writer, when she graduates, isn't really a college writer anymore. It is the kind of writer who actually lives in the world. And it starts in the first year seminar. I look at them. I know their names. I figure out what their patterns of thought are. I listen to what they say, and then as their advisor, I watch them grow. First year seminar. General education requirements. Here's the important thing to know about our general education requirements. We say it matters to us that you know how to do certain things. It matters to us that you know how to analyze texts. It matters to us that you know the scientific method, that you know how to create models. It matters to us that you know how to think like an artist and how to analyze art. It matters to us that you can think about things in historical context. They matter. But you know what doesn't matter to me so much? How exactly you go about gaining that skill. If you're thinking, yeah, Jess, you know what I've always wanted to do is read Moby Dick. So I'm going to take Moby Dick that you teach, and I'm going to learn about textual analysis, right? And people in here are thinking, oh my gosh, how did anyone make that choice, right? And I say, well, I have lots of reasons why people would make that choice, but I would also say, fine, then take Philosophy 101, then take Political Science 101, then take Art History, then take Music. You take any one of those, because every single one of those classes deals with a text that we will teach you how to analyze. So we say, this skill matters. And then we say, your passion matters. So go and find what you love, what you think you might love. And you get to explore it. We say to you, it matters to us that you know how to think about ethnicity, that you know how to think about your place in a global society, that you know how to think about the environment, that you know how to think about gender. But if you want to learn about the environment in a biology class, right on. If you want to learn about it in environmental history, you can do that. If you want to take a class called Terrorists and Tree Huggers, about the literature of environmental radicalism, you can take it with my husband. It's awesome, right? We say to you, this is a thing that's important. Now find your passion and follow it. Okay? The majors, another place where you can develop your passions, where you learn what it means to study a thing in depth, to study a thing over time. And you can study political science and English, or you can study biology, or art, or biology and art, or you can study anthropology or kinesiology, or anthropology and kinesiology. You can bring together in your majors different interests. You can cultivate more ways of seeing the world so that when you leave here, you know how to ask questions, you know how to find answers, you know how to make things in the world. Our institutes and centers are places on campus that can help you develop a study that will take you towards certain sectors of the economy. If you're interested in studying economics, if you're interested in working toward a career in public policy, if you're interested in the health services field, we have institutes on campus that can help you with letters of recommendation, that bring in speakers, that help you arrange internships, that connect you with people who matter in those fields, who act as resources for you, who can prepare you to apply what you know. But you want to know something? We will teach you to apply what you know over and over and over again. Every level of your education at Albion College will teach you how to apply what you know. So what does that look like? And where does it happen? It happens in classroom experiences. It happens in internships. It happens in senior theses and in independent research projects. And it happens after you leave and you work in the world. So I'm going to take an unlikely example to talk about application at Albion College. I love Moby Dick. I teach an entire class where the only thing we read is Moby Dick. Moby Dick is a novel about whaling written in the 19th century. What could possibly be less relevant to our world of Twitter and Facebook and clouds than a 19th century novel about whales? Give me a break! So I walk into my classroom and I say to my students in the middle of the semester, what's on your mind? What are the questions that you ask yourself every day? What classes am I going to take next semester? What am I going to major in? Is my sister still mad at me? Should I really eat Fruit Loops in the morning? Is Elvis Presley actually dead? Am I going to have to go to graduate school? Do I need to go to graduate school? Oh my gosh, what do I have to do to go to graduate school? Right? All of a sudden, the questions began to orbit around graduate school. So I said to them, after they generated the questions, Moby Dick can help us answer this question. Do I need to go to graduate school? And the question quickly became, do I need to go to medical school? And so we found ourselves engaging in the process of saying, what do we need to figure out in order to answer this question? And we talked about what medical school is. We talked about the way that medical school seems to increasingly narrow a field of study. So you go deeper and deeper in a particular field of study. You become increasingly specialized. And then you have to apply what you've learned in increasingly uncontrolled settings. So we think to ourselves, What does that have to do with Moby Dick? We start thinking to ourselves about the work of application, about risk. We start talking about whether or not the people in the room have ever seen a person die. If they've ever thought about wanting to become a doctor as requiring that they ask themselves, what will happen when a person dies under your hands? And we begin to think, what are the risks of whaling? What are the risks of being a harpooner? What are the things, the harpooneers, right, are the guys who stand up on the bow with the harpoon, which is defined as a missile-like thing, that they throw at the whales. And it lands in the whale and it drags the boat behind them, right? The whales die by suffocation, actually, not because they're speared. And it's an interesting thing to know. And we realize that the thing that the harpooneers risk, the best harpooneers have gone out over and over again. Over and over again, they've risked not just death, but degradation. They've risked not only their own death, but the deaths of others. They've risked starvation, they've risked dehydration, they've risked total alienation from the entire life that they once knew. So I asked them, what do you risk when you decide you want to go to medical school? How do you figure out if you have the stuff inside you that will enable you to meet the challenges that are there waiting? And if it's not inside you, what do you do with that knowledge? Moby Dick got us to that place. A 19th century novel about whales. We applied it to our life. Now the next class was actually the one that said they wanted to figure out whether Elvis was dead. I said, no, we're not going to do that. So instead we answered the question, am I ready to grow up? Which was also rich. So you think, oh, that's really nice, Jess, but that's my class. Give me another example. Another example of someone who's applying what they learn in a totally different setting. There's an honors class in music. A student of mine named Dan Merritt, who's an economics major, took it. And the challenge at the end was for all the students to figure out how to use music to give expression to something that mattered in their primary field of study. So what did Dan do? He wrote a piece for the violin that set to music patterns in the economy over the last decade. It was a violent piece, right? But it made available to all of the listeners an aspect of the economy that they might not necessarily have felt otherwise. So what did he learn? There are multiple ways of expressing. He applied what he knew about music and applied what he knew about the economy, and out comes something that he made that hadn't existed before. Our internships, right? Students have opportunities to do various kinds of internships. There's an amazing story about a woman named Catherine Dvorsny, who worked with my colleagues in the art and art history department. When Catherine was a sophomore, she took a class called The History of Prints, in which an artist and an art historian draw on the Albion College collection of prints. And they think about those prints from the standpoint of art historians and from the standpoint of artists. So there's this rich application that's happening in the classroom. And then, after her sophomore year, Catherine applies for an internship, the curatorial intern for works on paper at the Grand Rapids Art Museum. And my colleague, Anne McCauley, writes her a letter of recommendation. And Catherine Dvorsny, up against other undergraduates, who are juniors and seniors, up against graduate students, secures the internship. She says, how did this happen? And they told her, you not only had the knowledge, but had already applied that knowledge. You knew how to think like an artist and an art historian. And I would add, you had a professor who knew you so well, who could make the case so well for your particular skills, that we chose you over and above all the other applicants. Characters, right? My mind is back to Moby Dick, right? There are internships that our students take advantage of every day that not only build on what they know about application, but provide them with more opportunities to apply the things that they know. When our students are seniors and they have the opportunity to write senior theses, professors over and over again help the students figure out how to apply what they have learned in order to better understand their own lives, in order to be able to further their own interests. A student named Lindsay Peterson, who is a psychology and English double major, went abroad her junior year to Australia. She fell in love with Australia. She felt as though some aspect of herself emerged in Australia that was so powerful. And then she came home. and she experienced the things she didn't know how to name. And that thing was called reverse culture shock. And her professor, Marika Veet, in the psychology department, listened to what it was that Lindsay was talking about over and over again in the course of their meeting. And finally she said, you know what, Lindsay? There is actually a significant body of work in psychology about reverse culture shock. What if we develop a thesis that enables you not only to learn about that, but to formulate recommendations for colleges to help their students reintegrate into their home culture? So that's what she did. Marika Veet listened to her, identified an opportunity, helped Lindsay see an opportunity, took Lindsay through that particular process, and where is Lindsay now? She's in Australia. And how did she get there? By way of Australearn, the very company that helped her go over in the first place. She went over to work for them, right? Senior thesis as an opportunity to continue to apply what you know in order to better understand and help others better understand the things you are passionate about. So what about our alums? What about the people who go on? I've had a great time thinking about who our alums are and the work that they're doing. I connected with Kristen, the woman who I talked about earlier, who went over into the Peace Corps. I recently picked up Michigan history, where I read an article that was composed by a woman named Izzy Bendel, who is a graduate of Albion College, who when she was here was really interested in journalism and for her senior thesis created her own magazine online. And now, she is writing for Michigan history. A publication, incidentally, that I get, not because Izzy writes for it, but that I got before I found out Izzy wrote for it, which was all the more exciting. Fontana is a woman who graduated several years ago. She was a biology and English double major. She is now working for a company that helps biotech and pharmaceutical companies articulate the relevance of science to a variety of audiences. When Catherine came in, she knew exactly what she wanted to do in the world, to change it. That's what Catherine wanted to do in the world. But what we helped Catherine do was to figure out different ways that she might go about approaching that thing. Did she think to herself, I know what I'm going to do, I'm going to major in English or biology because one day I want to work at a company that's going to enable biotech companies to better articulate the relevance of science? No, she did not think that thing. She thought, I love biology, and I love English, and I want to change the world. So she's on her way. There are examples like this over and over and over again. Examples of people who came here and who learned here how to think in a number of different ways, who were enabled by professors to apply what they knew over and over and over again to create entirely new things. Professors who listened to them and asked them questions, not just about which medical school they wanted to go to, but whether they really wanted to be a doctor. Not only about which law firm they wanted to work for, but what it was that made them think they loved law. Who helped students who realized, in fact, that organic chemistry was going to be a hurdle they weren't going to get over. And so they weren't going to do the thing they thought they were going to do. They were going to do something else. So we listened. We helped them. We figured out what they loved. And we helped them figure out how to match up what they loved with their classes and the opportunities that we had so that they could take their passions and skills and put them to work in order to meet the world's needs. I have one more slide, and then I'm going to bring it to a close, and I'm going to say, it's going to be another Ralph Waldo Emerson sentence, right? And then I'm going to stop and say, are there any questions? And there's going to be an awkward pause. So just be ready for it, and when it comes, it's okay, all right? So I want to finish with Ralph Waldo Emerson again, and he writes, beware when the great God lets loose a thinker upon this planet, for then all things are at risk. Are there any questions? Profit, regular. What can I tell you about Albion academics that I have not told you already? I have fully realized the communication of all my ideas into your mind. Yes. Jess Roberts, J. Roberts at albion.edu. You may call me Jess, for real. It's what my students call me. It's what my colleagues call me. Any student in Albion who wrote me once and apologized profusely for calling me Jess, but then told me I told him to do it, right? You don't need to do that. You can just send me any emails if you have questions about what goes on here that I can answer for you. Thank you for coming.